Well,
Oh yeah, first and foremost, brothers, it's a pleasure. Pleasure to be here.
yeah.
And thanks for opening the space and opening the invite to collaborate and expand.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I actually really love your story that you shared with me earlier of how Holistika came to be. You guys founded it together, is that right?
Yeah.
And how did this vehicle take form?
I'll let brother Jamie open that one up.
Where does the story start? You know, it's like could start many lifetimes ago, but really the big shift was the external pressures pushing us away. Well, I say external pressures, but really that was just the straw that broke the back. But it was really that huge internal call to step away from a life for me personally that wasn't serving me. Was the engineering. I was working FIFO up until the end of November, and then I wasn't allowed to work FIFO anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sure everyone can discern why that is. I had a lot going on that month. I set a couple of plant medicine ceremonies. We did our 10-day shamanic training. I was going through a breakup and trying to hold space for, someone whose close parent was passing away, and all this stuff was going on, and obviously stepping away from my career of 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it was a big month. so December for me last year was this intentional sort of breath. This just like, okay, I'm not going to try and wonder what's next. This is purely just to breathe, integrate, recalibrate, just everything that's happened, and became very intentional with that, and found that space and started to open up that energetic space. And I feel that's what a lot of people are missing in their sort of everyday grind is that energetic space to allow things to come through and allow spirit to do the work, I might talk about this a lot, but Aubrey Marcus' podcast, there was his ex-partner was on there the other day, who's now going to be his best man for his wedding.
Oh, wow.
And she basically says, like, we say we're busy all the time. And if we accept that we are God and everything happens through us as God or source or whatever you want to call it, and we're busy all the time, how is God ever going to be able to come through to do the work?
True.
So for me, that month, not really understanding it fully at the time, but that month was that month to breathe, right? And then there was sort of a date on the 27th of December where I dropped into a big integration medicine ceremony. I held space for myself, and just everything just shifted and aligned. And within the next 10 days, basically the right people came in, the right ideas came in, and Holistic Freedom Movement was born, which was the first sort of co-creation. Ryan and I were on a hike with some other people, and it was one of those things, someone just says those three words together in conversation, and I was just like, that's it. That's what we've been wanting to create, a movement for people who have had their freedoms restricted, want to create community, want to be a part of something where they are fully welcome in all expression of what they are, and a space for community to come together, because a lot of people had been displaced from their careers or from their communities because of everything that was going on with the mandates and all that kind of stuff. So we created this container and this opportunity, which actually started with crypto, an opportunity with crypto that sort of, went from like a concept to 12 days later running our first event with almost 40 people, and it was like hugely successful and high vibe and beautiful. And over the next 6 months, we ran 17 events and really sort of channeled in and refined and defined what we wanted to offer and what our community wanted to look like. And it very quickly went from a movement and a concept and a space for community to just be to a way of living, really, as Ryan describes it. It's like a lifestyle, and that's when we're like, okay, well, we need a brand. We need a brand that encapsulates what we want to create, and that's where sort of Holistika was massaged and born out of that.
It's a cool name.
Yeah.
Oh man, there was so much resistance from my side, because for me, Holistic Freedom Movement just banged the nail on the head. It was we're creating holistic experiences to promote freedom through a movement of community. And then Jamie came to me and he's like, bro, like it doesn't have that longevity in it. And I was like, no, we're keeping it. Like, it's so amazing. I don't want to change it. And we started massaging it, like Jamie said, you know, and Holistika came through.
Well, I started massaging Ryan.
Yeah, nothing sus. And it made sense. Like we wanted something that wasn't just a movement. We wanted something that was a destination.
Yeah.
It was a state of being. It was a community, and it was a brand. It was a business. And we just knew it had to be holistic. So we played with Holistika with like a C, and it just didn't look right because it was like, you know, that Spanish interpretation. And like, we're not Spanish. We're not, you know.
Yeah.
And I just threw it on Canva with a K in it, and it just went bang.
Yeah.
And it stuck. And it's here to stay, you know, and it's unique, it's beautiful, it pops. Yeah. And that's what we've created. We've created a state of being.
Yeah.
You know, we've created a community. We did have a destination space, but we went through a few business intricacies with that, and that's no longer with us. So we're still looking at finding a destination space, but we find that's going to happen organically. And everything else just falls into line, and we've had such amazing success in not only providing great experiences for people in a holistic aspect, but through our attitude. Like, we came into this with no competition whatsoever. We weren't here to take from anyone. We were here to contribute on a deeper level to the community. And what we've enabled the community to do is look at collaboration differently. And we've helped so many people. It's been ridiculous. Like, it's so amazing seeing the people that have come into our space and they've just shone like so brightly, and they're going out doing their purpose. And like, that's what we're here for, right? Is collective evolution. And that's what Holistic has been able to do and continues to do.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think what I love about it most is kind of when you said there was no competition, you went into it with like a mindset where there's no competition. It's kind of like you went into it with like a place of abundance.
Yeah,
man. It was like pure abundance, you know, like I'm not here to compete with you. There's plenty of abundance for everyone.
Yeah.
And like it's one of those things where like people tell you you're meant to have a mindset of abundance, and you're not meant to be competing with anyone. But like, that's a very beautiful like alignment to that idea. Yeah, like abundance is it's just beautiful, man. It's breathtaking. Yeah, I love it. Like, I've never seen it, but I think like having more and more people kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Reinforce it. It's such an empowering thing, man.
Yeah.
Such an empowering thing.
Yeah, it's quite funny as well, because like prior to 2022 actually turning over a lunar year, I was dropping into a bit of like astrology stuff, and I don't really do astrology, but something called me to look into what 22 is bringing. And it was just abundance, love, collaboration. And I just opened my soul up to that. And then January the 7th, 2022, Holistic Freedom Movement's born. We got our first event going, and it's just snowballed from there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there with empowerment, right? That's truly what we do. We create empowering experiences for our community. We don't want to just be up the front doing. We want to be part of it being, and we want people to walk out of our spaces feeling empowered. Yeah. Whether they come in once or whether they come in multiple times, and just to feel empowered to step into what it is calling them, because that's what we've done, and we've come out on this beautiful trajectory of change, and to empower more people to do that is how we're going to create this shift, and we do that through that collaborative mindset, and we've seen so many people will share an event, and they'll go to their event, and they'll share another event, and all of a sudden these people are working together, and it just fills our hearts. It's just so beautiful to see, and it doesn't take away at all from what we're creating. It adds to that energy.
Everyone grows, everyone expands.
Yeah, 100%. Collective evolution, you'll hear that come from me quite a bit. Like, why not? Why would you want to be like the mogul in this huge skyrise apartment when everyone down the bottom's suffering? Like, rise together and it's so much more beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's everlasting, you know.
Yeah, but I love that.
And it's something that's been trying to be stripped away from us as a society, right?
Yeah. Well, I remember my experiences in business, like speaking with family members and people who are business consultants, they're like, check the competition, how you're going to differentiate, how you're going to compete, how you're going to do all this sort of stuff. I'm like, whoa, it's like, it's so much overload going into this, thinking that you're at war, and then you create that, and you live in that, but if you just go into it saying, there is no competition, I'm going to do my thing, and things just flower beautifully, right?
Yeah.
It's just amazing how the mindset can control so much more than just your little box of reality, you know, it's ever expanding.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's total opposite to what we're like taught when it comes to like business. It's total opposite. Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah, but it works. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
You know?
There's this book. Actually, literally, I've had it for a few years, but I picked it up 2 days ago, and it's a alternate translation of The Art of War.
Yeah.
Because you know the Art of War, Sun Tzu's The Art of War is like how to do business. You know, it's like business 101. Like, men, read this if you want to run your company, kind of thing. You know, and basically what this guy says at the start of this book is, he said it's called The Art of Peace. And what he says is the Chinese symbol for peace is very similar, if not the same, to war. So he just retranslates everything in terms of peace, and how can you show up as a peaceful warrior in this world? And it's like this whole reframe of like, okay, well, yeah, I can have my strength and I can have my poise and I can be ready when needed, but also how can I show up with peace and love and collaboration and connection? It's just this sort of beautiful reframe on, like you say, how we're taught to show up in the world and how we're taught to show up in business.
Yeah.
I'm going to get that book, The Art of Peace, and I'll write it down before I forget. not being rude, just texting.
No, worries. I'll send it through to you. Yeah, it's actually not easy to find online. It was in Chiang Mai in Thailand for 240 baht, and there's like this store called the Shaman Bookstore, and it's like this guy straight out of the 70s, like the round glasses, like long curly hair.
John Lennon.
Yeah, like John Lennon style. And these books are like stacked so high, man. And I just spent maybe like 2 or 3 hours in this bookshop. And there's one book I wanted specifically called The Art of Living, which is a Vipassana book.
Okay.
And somehow I found it, like amongst all these stacks. And then the other one I picked up was The Art of Peace. And these 2 books have just been the undercurrent of my whole sort of philosophy the last few years. And
that's where you find the gems.
Shaman Bookstore in Chiang Mai. I highly recommend it.
I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
Can I talk to you guys about your energy and how you work with energy and how you control your own energy? One thing I noticed about you guys when I met you at Magic Mondays, you had a different energy about you guys. It was very calming and grounding that just sort of stood out. What do you guys do to take care of your energy and also hold space for people in the energetic sort of space?
Oh man, my journey started with energy, I think, unconsciously through my fitness practices. I used to be an amateur bodybuilder, so I got a really good connection with my body and the energy, how it moves through my body. But there's still something missing, you know, and it wasn't until I started dropping into, I think, Stoicism was what I first dropped into.
Okay.
So it was kind of like the bridge between the body and the mind a little bit. And I spent a couple of years learning Stoicism to really like ground my energy into my body to be able to be a bit stronger. But there's still something missing.
Is that like the Roman philosophy?
Yeah. It's like an old Greek sort of philosophy of being very poised and very like grounded and centered, but still loving and calm and that type of stuff.
It's like an influence of control. It's like, you know, I can only control this sort of influence and don't worry about anything on the outside of that.
Okay.
And that was a really good foundation for my grounding sort of energy, but I still missed a little bit of that flow because it made me a bit too rigid. And then I ended up coming across Alan Watts through a friend, and I dropped into Zen Buddhism. And Zen Buddhism was just that glue that put it all together for me. Because I was very grounded, I was very controlled, very strong in my energy, but I missed that flow. It felt a bit too rigid. So the Zen Buddhism just smoothed everything out for me. And then from there, like, we've just been on a huge journey. The 10-day intensive shamanic course we did with One Tribe. Big props to Mark Steinwood, man. He's an absolute magician, you know.
Wow.
He took us through so much in that 10 days of really understanding what energy is and how to cultivate it, how to move it, how to identify it. And that for me was like that icing on the cake. And from that journey back in November last year, everything just got better and better and better and better.
Wow.
People were like seeing my energy so differently. You know, I knew I had a nice energy, a good, grounded, strong, healthy energy, but it just flourished from there because I could understand it better. So I could shift and flow in different environments. You know, when say you're in a room and there's a bit of stale energy, you know how to move through that or protect yourself against it and stuff like that. So adding that shamanic aspect to my medicine kit, like just blew the roof off everything.
Yeah.
And it was the best 10 days I've experienced in a long time.
Yeah, I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do you control that? If you walk into a room that's sort of stale, and how do you protect your energy so you don't sort of take on or get sticky energy stuck to you, and also go through the stagnancy or just hold yourself in that way?
So for me, like I protect my energy intuitively all day, every day. So like as I wake up, I do a very grounding meditation. I clear away anything that may not serve me from the day prior. You know, I set the intention for the day coming, and I sort of put up a bubble of, you know, violet or white light around myself for the journey ahead. You know, I connect with my spirit guides and my ancestors and that kind of thing on a daily practice.
Beautiful.
You know, crystals are quite a big part of my life as well. Like I carry them, I wear them, I use them quite frequently. And a lot of it's like mind over matter as well. Because you can do all the spiritual work, but you can still have this disconnect with your ego. And if your ego and you aren't working together, you're going to be challenged all day, every day. And then the moment you let your guard like soften, the ego just creeps in. It's like, or someone else's energy creeps in, you know? So for me, it's a multitude of everything. Like I couldn't put my finger on one thing, but intention and also clearing that channel for spirit to come through. Because I feel we're just a vessel, you know, a conduit for spirit. And when you can have a clear vessel through body, mind and soul, you can shift and move energy a lot easier. And sometimes you don't even think, it just happens.
Yeah. So do you kind of have like the intention that you have pure control of your energy at all time?
Yeah. I truly think like that I do as an individual. Maybe someone that doesn't quite understand it as much may not. Like for me, it takes a lot to ruffle my feathers, like a lot.
Yeah.
And you could literally slap me in the face and I'll have a smile on my face.
Really?
Like I'm good. Because I couldn't control what you did, right?
Yeah.
I can then reflect upon that and go, well, did I do something to cause that? And as soon as I know I didn't, it's gone. It's not my issue, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I've been in many of those situations in my life, and I've always looked at it the same way, especially when I dived into the Stoicism, because the Stoicism gives you kind of like three options, right, for everything that happens in your life. So you've got those instances that you have complete control over. That's where you'd put like a pretty good portion of your energy. You've got the lower of the three, which is you have no control over. So that's say like the government is trying to push something on you. You have no control over that. So how much energy are you going to attach to that scenario? And then you have the middle part, which is you have somewhat control. And that there is where people get a bit unstuck, is the middle bit, where they think, well, I've got a little bit of control, so I'm going to throw all of my energy into it. It's like, well, you don't have much control, so pull a bit of energy back. Because then if you're putting your energy into the wrong scenarios, when you've got those scenarios where you have complete control, you've got no energy left. So say something comes into your life which is for your highest good, and you're like, oh, well, I'm so tired, I'm flat, I can't put any energy into it. That's because you put your energy into the wrong places in your life. And I do that intuitively all day, every day, which helps me stay grounded. And then when I need to turn on, it's like, boom, it's right there.
You
know?
Always ready.
Always ready. It's like being the warrior in the garden, not the gardener in the war.
I like that.
So like your sword is always behind you, it's sharp, but it's not out here swinging around like cutting trees and stuff. It's peaceful, it's serene.
Warrior.
You know?
I think Jordan Peterson talks about that, the word meek, how it means keeping your sword sheathed, not using it.
That's right.
That's real power when you can control it.
Yeah.
Always ready.
Always ready.
I think one of my favorite stories based around Stoicism was like a a man who built a factory throughout his whole lifetime, and then his factory burnt down. His factory was burning down, and he called his wife and child, and while the factory was burning down, and he called them, and they were watching the factory as it was burning, and the wife was freaking out, the kid was freaking out, and the man was just like, let's watch this, because there's nothing I can do about this. I could react over it. However, there's nothing I can do about this, so I'm just gonna let it happen. So I think it was like a perfect depiction of, I think it's two phrases: is memento mori and amor fati, love of fate and remember you'll die. And it's like a very beautiful kind of like alignment between like mastering chaos, because there's some chaos that there's nothing you can do about it. And like I love Stoicism. Stoicism is like it's a very good introduction to kind of like I went through the same thing, kind of like Stoicism.
It's
like
the gateway into philosophy, really. It's
Yeah.
that Stoicism, because it's sort of that most grounded one, right?
Yeah.
You actually reminded me of another proverb, which is not directly related to Stoicism, but the way I sort of look at it is more like on a timeline scale, right? Like good luck and bad luck. Like you actually don't really know. Oh, you could have a fender bender this day, but that could lead you to meet, say, your partner that you spend the rest of your life with, because that's the person that you ran into. See, oh, bad luck, I ran into someone, but like good luck. And it's sort of like that proverb of the guy who has the farm, and he's sort of farming, and his horse runs away, so he can't pull the plow along, and all the villagers, it's such bad luck, like your horse ran away. And he's like, yeah, maybe. And then the horse comes back, and it's brought all this wild brumbies. So he's got multiple horses, and the town's like, oh, that's that's such good luck. And he's like, yeah, maybe. And then then his son's sort of like riding one of these wild horses, and he falls off and breaks his leg, and they're like, oh, such bad fortune. He's like, maybe. And then all of a sudden, sort of like a few days later, the government comes in and they're conscripting people for the war, and it's leading them off to certain death. And then his son can't go because he's got a broken leg, And it's it's sort of like what sort of timeline are you looking on, and that sort of closely relates to Stoicism. It's like I don't actually know if that's good luck or bad luck, so why put too much energy in sort of judging that and just allowing it to be fully. And a big part of that is staying grounded and centered in your own energy, and back to what you said with practices is we've mentioned grounding a lot of times, and depending on what element, for me, depending on what element you sort of associate more to is how you might ground better. Like it might be for me, I'm a very earthly being, and Ryan's similar, so it's like that sort of putting your feet on the earth and being in nature, being amongst the trees, and being in that space and breathing into that space to allow you to center. Or it could be, if you're more water, it could be jumping into the ocean or these kind of things. So doing the practices that align with your state of equilibrium or your state of normal, sort of where your energy is.
Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to add as well, because I think a lot of people try to intellectually understand energy and how to work with energy.
Yeah.
And
very true.
Yeah, and I remember when I moved to Bali a couple of years ago and got my first sort of spiritual mentor, when my spiritual journey was really sort of kicking off. I'd done the philosophy, done the psychology, done the physiology, but it was like the spiritual journey was starting. I remember the very first thing I said to him, he said, what do you want to do in these next 3 months? I said, I want to learn the language of energy. And there was only so much he could teach me, but it takes that time to tune into that felt sense. And it takes experiences, and it takes maybe going to healings like Reiki sessions or shamanic trainings to tune into that felt sense of what feels good for you, and getting to that point where you can be like, okay, well, is my energy here or is it here? And being able to be present and grounded and open as well. And open is a big one, and Ryan sort of taught me a lot about working how to protect my energy, but at the same time I want to remain open enough to receive and open enough to connect. So finding that balance that works for you, and a lot of the time, my journey with energy has been, because I'm probably more of the fire and Ryan's more of the water. My fire is like fully in and then out. So it's like trying to find that balance so I'm not like halfway through an event and then I just like my energy drops, and trying to find that balance where I can be more consistent and more grounded and fully in, fully out's okay if you manage it, and it can be quite an effective way to show up in the world. But it's like finding that balance and finding those practices you can do every day, whether it be cold showers, getting your feet on the earth, or movement or dance, or I've been doing a lot of the heart coherence breathing lately, which has just completely shifted my whole journey. That's probably something we could probably go into later, but finding that space where you can be from the heart and not from the mind, where I've spent 98% of my life. Once I dropped into that space for, just been fleeting moments, but and this guy's been in there for the last however many months, but once I dropped in that space for multiple days, which was recently, within those that 2-week period, everything that I could have possibly wanted from the universe was just here you go, here you go, here you go. It was like that ultimate state of heart coherence and openness and complete peace with what would come to pass, and complete gratitude for what did.
So we manifest from our heart space, not our head space.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah. Love is the highest frequency known to humankind. And when you consciously choose to spend time there, you watch what happens, man. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
If you were to give advice to someone who's just beginning their journey into energy and understanding energy, what advice would you give them? Let's say they're a baby, they're like they're still in the mind element, they're still stuck in that mind. What advice would you give them?
Cacao ceremony.
Honestly,
harmonize. Honestly, harmonize is such a beautiful gateway. We've created this 3-hour cacao and connection journey, and it's more than just sitting with cacao and meditating. Because meditating for some people, like me, for example, I knew meditation would change my life for about 3 years before I actually managed to sit for more than 10 minutes still and do it. It's like we've created this whole ceremony where we sit with the medicine, then we move with the medicine. It's intuitive movement, and then you also lay down and receive on a sound healing level. So it's got that full sort of spectrum, and throughout the whole process we talk into the energy, and we talk into the energy we're creating in the circle, and the energy that we're creating from the medicine and from the movement. So that's just one of the, like you say, there's so many options, right? This choice, spoiled for choice these days, but that's just one of the ways where you can experience that felt sense of what it is like to create an energy in a space, and to feel an energy within your body, and move that piece by piece. Like we said, feel the energy, feel the warmth moving down, and that's all a transference of energy. That's one option. not to give ourselves a plug, but there's so many more.
Another one of my favorite options is nature.
Like
Pachamama has the most beautiful way of showing you what you need to see. And you don't have to be a hippie hugging trees, they're on the side of the road. You can literally...
But you can.
And I love to do that, right? I've been spotted many a time down at Langley Park hugging trees when I was dressed in my FMG uniform. But it's cool. I loved it, right? But,
takes a photo.
The
man sends an email to the hill company.
Sends it to HR. I need a bit of help. We've known about him for a while. He's
on our list,
he's the guy with feathers and crystals on his desk.
He's on our rainbow list,
But it's taking that time, man, to just step out of your current environment. Because how are you to create change if you're in the same environment continuously? So just to take that little, you don't have to go all the way out of your environment, just that little tiny step back. And spend some time in nature, whether it's with a friend or alone or with some medicine, whatever, to really receive and look at energy, because it will show itself. All you need to do is close your eyes, and you'll feel things, you'll see things, and then from there, understand how good that feels in your heart. And sometimes that's all you need, because that will then call you forward into a deeper journey. And the time we spend in nature is profound, you know. Like we've
Oh,
had so
yeah.
much healing in nature individually, collectively,
Mm.
even healing nature itself. Like you can heal nature
Mm.
when you drop into those energetic states, you know, because it's a living, breathing organism, and it's we're not here to fight
Mm.
against it. We're here to fight fight for it and with it, you know, for the prosperity of all.
Yeah.
Mm.
And just by you acknowledging nature and putting your bare skin on their bare skin, that sometimes is enough for healing,
Yeah.
you know. Where something that dawned on me a couple of weeks ago, and it keeps coming in the back of my mind, is like some human beings have never had bare skin on the earth. And some of these people are 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. They've never had bare skin on the earth. Imagine that.
The concrete jungle.
Imagine what is going on inside your physiological and energetic bodies
All those
if you've
ions.
never had your bare skin on the earth to dissipate all that negative charge.
Yeah. To them, it's dirty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But that's the
Yeah,
mindset
it's
a lot of
yeah.
people have been brought up in, right? Is,
Yeah.
is oh, don't touch the earth. It's cold. It's wet. It's damp. You'll get sick. You'll do this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all of this stuff. And
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest lies we've ever been told.
Yeah.
Because there is so much healing in the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scientifically proven.
Mm.
You know, it discharges negative ions out of your body and, you know, recharges your system, and that's the whole thing around earthing or grounding, you know.
Yeah.
It's what happens.
Yeah.
It's a transference of energy, you know,
Yeah.
out of the old in with the new. And so that's a beautiful place to start as well, is to
Get
go on a bit
connected
of a
with
journey
nature.
with nature. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are nature.
Yeah.
Well, that's
We are
right.
nature,
Oh, we
yeah.
are nature. Yeah, we're all part of the big system. And a third one I'll just add for people because it's just really powerful. And it was on. We had you guys had Brother Sonny
Sunny, yeah.
on your podcast the other day. I was listening and he was talking about Reiki as the gateway. You know, it's probably it's a saturated market at the moment, but there are these special humans that hold this special space where you can feel the Reiki energy in the space, and you pay small investment, and you have that one-to-one space, and there's two people I'd mentioned for that. One's Sonny, and one is another friend of ours, Mairead. They just hold this amazing energy space, and I can attest to it as well. I've done my level 1 training, and all I have to do is be like, Reiki, 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 come into my body now, and I can feel the energy come into my body, and then I can transfer the transference into that. So if anyone is keen, like sitting a session of Reiki is a really good way to get that felt sense, and that's when you start, because intuition sure is innate, but it's something that it's a muscle really. It's a muscle. So you start training that muscle. It's like going to the gym. Tap into that. Okay, what does that feel like? Ooh,
Yeah. What was the moment that you started you started truly trusting your own intuition?
The shamanic training. Yeah. For me, the shamanic training was the big. I'd done the spiritual stuff for a couple of years. Spiritual stuff. It sounds like I'm downplaying it, but it's it was a big journey, and a lot of breath works and a lot of stuff, and philosophy and psychology and putting it all together. But the real connection of the dots was the connection to spirit, and that was that 10-day shamanic training. It's like, okay, you've got all this stuff, great, but sit back, become a hollow bone, and tune into what's actually going on beyond what you can experience in your physical reach.
So what exactly is shamanism, if you were to sort of...
So in a one-word sentence, shamanism is the movement of energy. And the movement can be the understanding, the transference, the shifting, like the dissolving of one energy into another. It's just the understanding of energy. And for a lot of people, like, it's no different to... Like, shamanism in a way is no different to Reiki, no different to like all these other modalities. Like, it's just dealing with energy, but with shamanism, there's a bit of a wider scope. So like you can start to connect to the land on a different level energetically, your spirit guides, the ethereal realm, like your archangels and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just a more wider understanding of energy.
Wow. Yeah, a more open channel.
Yeah.
To the full spectrum of
full spectrum of spirit.
To spirit or to source or whatever you.
Can we jump into
Spirit?
spirit?
Okay. Yeah.
I want to know how you guys connect with spirit, and with your spirit guides, and how they help you in ceremony and guide you in your life.
Yeah, sure. So for me, I've got I got 2 spirit guides that are with me pretty much everywhere. It's like anytime I close my eyes, like one of them in particular is there. That's a white wolf, and he's been with me for probably about 2 years. I met him on a cacao ceremony with Shannon Valance.
Oh wow.
She's a powerful lady, man. Very powerful.
Shannon Valance.
Yeah, Shannon Valance. She's a very out of this world mystical sort of healer. She does a lot of dragon medicine, a lot of Kali Ma medicine, and she holds really powerful space.
What's Kali Ma? Sorry.
Kali Ma's the destroyer.
Is that the 6 armed?
Yeah.
God.
Chops the heads off. That.
Kali, the god of death.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with great destruction comes great creation.
Yeah.
It's like the Shiva energy.
Yeah, and that's where my journey with spirit really opened up, and that was prior to the shamanic training. And I was gifted wolf medicine, and at the same time eagle medicine, and it was the most profound journey I'd been on until I dropped into the shamanic realm.
Yeah.
And for me, they're guides that just continually support me with strength, courage, and almost like the eagle medicine for me is that sight, looking at the bigger picture. 'Cause for me, it's very easy to be the observer. I can take a really short step out of my current situation and just look at what's going on and reassess, because sometimes we get so caught up in the immediate vicinity of what we're doing. It's often nice to take a step back, and through connections of animal spirits, animal guides, that's really helped me. And there's many different guides, I believe, in your journey. It just depends on what you need and who you're calling in. And
can I jump into your spirit guide? You said was Edgard?
Edgard, yeah.
And is that an actual wolf, or a human, or a shapeshifter? Or?
So it's an actual wolf, yeah. And he's always there. As soon as I close my eyes, he's looking back at me. So it's the reminder that for me, I'm always protected. I'm always, it's never just me. I'm never alone. I've always got something or someone or this bigger, to me, it could be God, who knows? Yeah. But I don't need to know. All I know is this is something that I can close my eyes and connect with and tap into a bit of deeper courage and strength when it's required. Spirit guides are pretty interesting journeys to go on and sort of get to know better. You can call all sorts of things in. I've had a lot of other spirit guides come and go, but for me, especially having Edgard there like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So the ones that come and go, are they just friends or visitors, or they actually still are your guides but from different places?
My experience, they're temporary. Maybe not temporary, but they're not there forever. They're there to help you work out some messages or shift through some things that you need a bit extra help with. And when you drop into shamanism, you get to learn a lot about animal medicine. And at the moment, I've got a pair of birds that follow me everywhere.
Really?
And
it's physically?
Well, different types of birds. There's always 2 birds everywhere I go. Whenever I see a bird, there's always 2 together. And that's symbolising a journey that I'm on at the moment, a romantic journey, which is the most profound romantic journey I've ever been on.
Beautiful.
And everywhere I go, there's 2 birds, 2 swans, 2 parrots, 2 galahs, 2 kookaburras, 2 of everything. And that to me is this deep reminder from spirit that I'm on the right journey with this romantic partner of mine. And I've fully opened my heart to that. And I've submitted to that unconditional love, and it shows up in physical form everywhere I go. So if you want a reminder and that's not enough, okay.
Yeah, 100%. I love that, man.
It's powerful.
And it reminds me of the jackal in Egyptian mythology, the dog head there.
Yeah.
Which was a guardian or protector in the spirit realm, and then you've got your guardian, which is also a wolf.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Well, what about yourself, Jamie? Have you had much connections with spirit, and have guided you through your journey with Holistika, but also in meditation and things like that?
Yeah, mine actually started a couple of years ago. Ryan sort of reminded me of my first connection. I came back from Bali, and I, sort of had started my spiritual journey in this physical lifetime, and I was curious because people were talking about these spirit guides, and you need to go meet your spirit guides. So, in true 2022 fashion, I went on YouTube and found a video and laid down and did this meet your spirit animal meditation, and it sort of guides you through this thing, and it was it's like a 20-minute video, and then it says your spirit animal will appear now, and it was the magpie, and it was clear as day. I can still see it in my mind's eye, and I don't get visuals, and Ryan and I are very similar in this sense. People, you can either get some people close their eyes and they can see pictures and stuff. I don't get that. Maybe like flashes. It's more like a no sense. But this was like a clear, like magpie's face, like right in my face there. And that was my first sort of connection. That was a couple of years ago. And I sort of felt into what that energy was for me. And for me, the magpies, they're highly intelligent, but also highly misunderstood. Everyone sort of gives them a bad rap. They're sweeping, but really they're just fiercely protecting their family and their community at all costs, no matter what the size of the bird is compared to the size of the predator, and they hold their space, within a very intelligent strength, but also very misunderstood in the way that they hold their space. And I feel like that's been a theme of my life, and my loving intention is often can be skewed or misunderstood by some surface level frustration or my energy being off, and that was my sort of first real connection to like a spirit animal, and the magpie energy has sort of stayed with me that whole time. But
also balance as well, eh? The black and the white.
Yeah.
Duality.
Yeah. It holds a lot of meaning, and Ryan's just put his little spirit tortoise there. Look, a lot of people can get sort of turned off, and there's obviously the 1% of people, or 1% that are like, yeah, this is amazing, I can dive in. But like for the people are sort of scratching their head, like spirit guides, I want to meet them. A guided shamanic journey with rhythmic drumming, to really break it down, is the best way that I feel to meet a spirit guide, whether that be by someone who practices shamanism, or you go to one tribe runs weekly meet your spirit guide sort of things, or you can go on YouTube and listen to one with good headphones, and it's this rhythmic drumming that puts you in that almost like trance-like state, and it will actually walk you through a journey, like you go down a slide and you come out in the forest, and then and then you look over and then you'll see your sort of animal, or see your being, and that's sort of what the theme was through the shamanic training. We did a fair few of them, and for me a lot of my guides came in through that, and now anytime I connect most strongly with my guides is when I'm in that rhythmic drumming sort of sense, and that sort of like that, it gets you out of the mind, really. It goes beyond that sort of mind. But the more you train that sense, the more you can just, and the more you center your energy, you can just go and just tune straight into it. Okay, well, what are they saying? But I think for people trying to like break into that space, a guided shamanic drum journey, whether that be on YouTube or in a space that someone's holding, is the best way to connect.
Awesome. Do you guys do the drumming at your events? All sound healing type stuff?
Yeah. We both sat with a close brother of ours, John Wife, at Gijigana, and we birthed our own medicine drums.
Oh wow!
Like a full day ceremony, and oh man, this was powerful, hey.
Yeah.
So you go the whole way from choosing your hoop, choosing your kangaroo skin, to sewing and weaving it all together, then weaving your crystals and your feathers and all that kind of stuff
decoration
into it, decorating, and then you do a ceremony and you put it over the fire and bless it and connect with the energy and all this kind of stuff. Like, highly recommend it if you.
I gotta go to that.
Wow, that's amazing. That's crazy.
Mention that to me now. Good to get up. Your own drums.
Oh, John Wife's next level, man. If you want to learn a lot more about spirit and ceremony and stuff, like, hit him up, because he's been doing it for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I'm keen. I'm gonna lock that in.
Yeah, he's a full-blown medicine man.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. That's cool.
Yeah. So we do drumming more as a energy clearing or a grounding sort of thing. Ground people into the space, or clear any energies that are from the day. Or a lot of people rush to get to these events and sort of like are a bit ungrounded when they get there. So drumming's a really good way to help them drop into the space.
Yeah.
In terms of guided shamanic journeys, we haven't really dropped into that yet. That's sort of more some deeper training that to be done with the one tribe or with someone else that allows us to hold that space. I feel like we could both hold it intuitively, but it's just not something that we're brought into our offerings yet.
Yeah, fair enough. It takes a bit of time to go into that kind of stuff too. Just you don't know what you're going to stumble into, I suppose, in that realm.
Oh, definitely. Exactly. And that's the thing with shamanism. It's not for the lighthearted.
Yeah.
You know, good brother of mine, Tim Morrison, he warned me when I started talking about shamanic training, and he was saying, just make sure, drop into your space, drop into your energy, make sure you are being called to it, not from the ego, but from your own energy, because you can open up so much, and it can be a lot for people to comprehend and to you know, really understand. And I knew I was ready because it was just calling me every day. I was sitting at home just like listening to Icaros from the jungle, you know, drumming every day, and it was just like, go.
You really have to face yourself.
Shamanic
training. Yeah. Do you feel like you've had any instances where you've had to deal with your shadow or do shadow work or really come to grips with your fears in that sort of space?
Like I sat with fears and with like the concept of death many years before I started deeper energy and spirit work. So I'd already kind of like jumped over that hurdle. And I was really comfortable when the I suppose the veils were taken off of looking at such a bigger scope of life and spirit and energy. I was already well prepared. So I was kind of like, well, no matter what comes at me, I'm cool, because like I'm prepared to die tomorrow. Like, it's okay. I'm not afraid of death. So for me, like, I didn't have any fear, you know. And I had a few people warn me, and I was like, well, that's cool. I appreciate that, because you're just looking out for me. But I knew in my own being that I was ready.
You've been through it all, perfect. It was like your life was preparing you for this position,
100%.
like way before you even cognitively thought about it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But these things always come up, right? Like 5 days ago for me, we were on the back end of a very light plant medicine journey, just out in the bush and with some brothers, and then, you know, we'd sort of finished the journey, prepping some food, and then all of a sudden just something shifted. The energy just dropped. And there's another guy across, very intuitive, and Ryan felt it as well, and he said, I felt something change, and I had to go away and hold space for myself, because something was coming through. So I had to purge something out of my system, and that was very much, okay, well, something's coming through here. Am I going to allow it to, you know, destroy me or break me down, or am I going to go into the shamanic realm, call in my guides, and hold that space for myself to move through that? So, you know, it's the first time in a while that something's come through, but I think the more you develop this ability and the more open you are, and Tim Morrison, you mentioned before, you know, every new level has a new devil, right? So, so
I love that.
Every sort of like step you go through in life, and as I enter this more hard, expansive space, I also got I got a cold for 2 weeks. Normally, if I get a cold or if I feel something coming on, it's gone within 12 to 24 hours. And I hadn't had anything for about 2 years. And like a few weeks ago, I had one for 2 weeks. I was like, what is this? But I could feel it was that energetic physical upgrade. So the physical, my physical body can match my new energy or my new frequency. And that was just another part of that, you know, holding space for myself in the shamanic realm. So yeah, it's definitely something that comes up, and something you need to be prepared for, because you don't always want to rely on co-regulation. You know, there's a big part of my year that has been, or you know, a couple of years since I've known this beautiful man here, is, you know, so an older brother to me.
You guys aren't brothers?
No.
I thought you guys were actually brothers, man.
We're soul brothers.
Soul brothers. But yeah, Ryan's like the older brother I never had, and there's a big part of me that leans on him sometimes to co-regulate. But that's why they say, you know, you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend your time with, because whether it be consciously or not, we co-regulate. We regulate with the energy of the people in our immediate environment. But you don't always want to have to rely on that. You want to build, and that's something that Ryan does really well, and we do really well in our spaces. It's like, I can support, but I want to empower you to make the right decisions. I want to empower you to have the conversations you don't feel comfortable having. I want to empower you to hold the space for yourself, and that's what, you know, my journey has been stepping fully into over the last couple of years.
Well, what are some of the hardest things you've had to discuss with yourself or talk about? And what are some of the things you see men struggling with the most out there in your
Ooh.
ceremonies and things of that nature.
I'd like to drop into this.
Yeah,
If you don't
go
mind.
for it.
I got called out on this in Invictus. Are you familiar with the Invictus
I've heard about
container?
Invictus. This is Tim Morrison's.
Yeah, Tim Morrison.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's and we'll mention him a few times because he's had such a huge impact on both of our stories. In that trip in Bali, I did the Brave, which is a week-long retreat immersion, which is basically what you do in 8 weeks in Invictus, but in the space of 1 week, intensive. Three big breathworks, ice baths, warrior stuff. It's all of it. And then a couple of years later, about 14 months later, we did Invictus together, which is like an 8-week journey. You drop in every week. You do sessions. You do, primal activations. You do breathworks. You do all this kind of stuff. But so I got called out on this because I was explaining my situation, saying that I keep meeting women, and it's like super intense, and it's like, whew, and then it's gone. It dissipates, right? It's like this lusting, and it's like, it's this intensity. And he said that is the archetype of the addicted lover.
Okay. Right.
Oh, damn.
That's also the fire element too, right? It's fire, then it's dark.
Well, exactly. It's burning that full fire, and if you don't keep feeding the fire with sustainable logs, hardwood logs, it's going to burn out, right?
I was like, all right.
Softwood just doesn't burn the same.
You can't. Yeah, soft wood, right? So it's like so that was my pattern. I would meet women, and within 3 to 6 months, this flame would burn out, and they may or may not still be in love with me, but for me, the love wasn't sustainable, and a lot of it was just lust. It wasn't love, because I was addicted to this, and another thing as well, and a lot of guys, especially in sort of like this spiritual community, probably have this, is you meet in these high frequency environments, whether it be an ecstatic dance, which changed my life. Everyone should do ecstatic dance. Yeah. Ecstatic dance, or ceremonies or festivals, and you meet in this high frequency environment, so you're both sort of like vibing up here. This is Ryan reflected on this a lot and helped me really understand. And then you come out and you're like, wow, this person's amazing, they're going to change my entire life. And you come back to normal life, and your frequencies return to a baseline. And that's almost always different to what it was up here, and different to what the other person is. And then you have this like almost like sadness, or this like almost like this breakup feeling when you haven't even started anything with this person, because you created your entire life in this high frequency space. And it's like, so it's like, and I feel like a lot of people have this issue, and it's for me, my journey has been learning to, I can understand I was in that state. How can I come back into my own center strongly with my own practices and my own energy, and ground in, and then meet this person where they're at, and allow things organically, if it's the time, and if it's the person, and if it's the space, to blossom and to grow. And that's been my one of my biggest journeys is meeting myself, and meeting the way that I was showing up in the world, and it not being congruent with the message I wanted to, and the impact I wanted to have in my community.
True, man. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I can relate.
The hit right at the feels,
questions.
right at the feels.
My notes.
But yeah. So I'm sorry. I mean, we're all about breakthrough conversations, so I just wanted to ask you, like, what was your breakthrough moment? What was that moment that like everything just seemed to like align to make sense, and it just kind of all came together? What was that breakthrough moment?
I think for me, like, I've always been a people person.
Yeah.
Like, from as far back as I can remember, I was like, people always wanted to be around me, Always had a nice energy. I was never like erratic, or there was a phase of my life where I'd just come out of the army, and I'd been like indoctrinated with this, like, everything had to have its certain place,
Yeah.
And then I dropped into like bodybuilding, so it enhanced that like really structured mentality. And for a few years I was stuck in that, but it wasn't until the breakthrough for me would have been when my oldest sister stood in the kitchen and told me I was not nice to be around. Because I was in this space of like, everything was perfectly aligned for me. And I didn't really care what everyone else was doing around me because my life was so good. Everything was on point. I was smashing the gym. I was, I had chicks here, there, and everywhere, like amazing people in my life. But I didn't care about how any of those felt because my life was so good. It didn't really matter what anyone else felt. And it wasn't until she sat me in the kitchen and was like, you're not nice to be around. And this is my older sister who, like, I love to bits. She just had a couple of kids, and I was like, like this big boot just hit me in the face, and I was like, I don't want people to look at me like that. And from there on, I decided to change. And what changed was I accepted a deeper level of love for myself so that then I could love other people on a deeper level. And just from there, everything just, all those layers of control just started to dissolve, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me, was letting go of needing to control every single aspect. Because through the army, through FIFO work, through an absent father, me trying to be the father of the home, and through the bodybuilding mentality, that to me was just all about control. And it wasn't until I let that go through that conversation with my sister that's when everything just went, whoa, it can be so much more beautiful. Because not only can I have a beautiful life, those around me can also experience the same joy.
Wow.
And that's what I do every day. I wake up for us, not for me.
I love that one conversation could change that for you. And I love that she loved you enough to say that to you without, some people just detach and avoid.
100%, man.
And you never really end up knowing.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful conversation to have sometimes, just to break a bit of the ego down.
Yeah. And not only did I make that decision to dissolve the control, I also made myself a promise, if I ever felt the same way she did about, like, me to someone else, I would have that conversation with them too. And we've had many, haven't we? I've had many with those closest in my life where it's like,
awesome.
Hey, this doesn't feel good, let's talk about it. Rather than, I'll just push that to the side and sweep it under the rug,
How do you approach that healthy confrontation?
From here first. Drop into your heart. Is this my heart speaking, or is it my ego? Is it something that someone has done to offend me because of where they're at in their journey, or is it something that is really alive for me? And when you can drop into your own energetic space on a deeper level, you know if it's alive for you or not. And you know if it's like your shit or their shit. Or society's shit. Because it could be either, it could be a combination of all. But if it's something that's really important to you and you feel as though you want to voice it, just come at it from love. And by invitation, not by projection. Because a lot of people, even in the spiritual world, project all their shit. You have facilitators, man, that project shit onto their audience and their guests and their family. And like, that's not cool. That's just wounded as, And when you can invite the conversation, you're always going to have a better reaction. It's kind of like, do you want to push the dog in the corner and wait for it to bite? Or do you want to come down on one knee and show it you're on the same level and be like, hey, would you like to come here?
Love that.
And can I add to that as well?
Beautiful
like,
analogy.
Like you and I have had many of those conversations.
Oh, many.
But
we'll have many more.
But the amount of times that you haven't even had to invite it, or maybe energetically you invited it, but like a day or two later, I'd be like, hey, Ryan, I can see the way that I have been showing up hasn't been congruent with how I want to show up in the world. And he's like, yeah, I felt that, but I was just waiting for you to come to that realization yourself. And that's something that you do so well, is have that patience and energetically, you know it's in your field, but like not rushing straight to, Jamie, we need to fix this, or James, this is not good, and allowing me, and it's been so empowering for me. And so, such a beautiful thing for me to step into is having that self-accountability and saying, right, I'm not showing up in the way that I want to. I acknowledge that, and either I'm going to change it with A, B, and C, or can you suggest ways that I can change this? And that's allowed me to really take ownership rather than sort of like someone pulling me up for my shit all the time, and saying this is it's an issue. So, and it's allowed me to reflect on those conversations if there's something that's not congruent, like the way that we're showing up in business or anything like that. It's allowed me to also be patient and open and loving with those conversations as well. So,
how do you guys also approach when you see an aspect of yourself that you don't like, that needs improvement? How do you approach that within yourself to integrate it or move through it without being too hard on yourself or punishing yourself, or just really allowing yourself to move through that shadow, so to speak?
Yeah, I think for me, like, I'm very kind to myself, because for me it's not a race. It's a very steady journey. So the harder I am on myself, the more chance I have of imploding or blowing outside or dropping into those lower vibrations. So it's a technique that I've sort of chosen to use is like, be the observer. So if something's not feeling right, take a step back from your immediate scenario, situation, feeling, emotion, whatever it is, and look at what's actually going on. Is it something really small and that's just temporarily come in based on an external circumstance, or is it something that is, like I said previously, alive for you? Is it something that you've noticed before, and is it something that's repetitive? Because if we think that like we might feel a little bit bad sometime or lower or negative, we can sort of get to that stage where we're continually looking for negative things. So for me, it's like if it's just popped in and it's gone, like just let it be. But if it popped in yesterday and the day before and the day before that, okay, take a step back and look at it, what's going on. Because then you can find yourself in a battle with your ego. Because like we are not our thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And something that came to me the other day listening to a podcast, I can't remember who it was, but it was so powerful. It was like, rather than trying to control and fight your ego and one-up your ego, why don't you become the best team you can be and work with your ego rather than against it, or try to, ego death and all that kind of stuff, try and dissolve it. Like if you're continually doing that, you're always going to be fighting one another. Or you can choose to make the most harmonious team and relationship, and you can work together because it's never going anywhere.
Yeah.
Some are led to believe that you can dissolve your ego completely and it's gone. And then you're just living this pure divine essence. And it's like, it's a lie. We're here in this human experience because we're living a physical experience. And part of that physical experience is the mental psyche. Yeah. So you're never going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Do you believe the ego will still be with you after death in the next dimension?
I'm not too sure, man.
Yeah.
I don't need to know that answer.
True.
So I've never spent time on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions out there that I don't need to know answers to. So I will choose not to
very stoic of you.
entertain those. Very stoic. Because my energy can go elsewhere.
Yeah.
I don't need to know what you're thinking right now. All I need to know is this feels fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it. And if I don't enjoy it, okay, why am I not enjoying it?
I like that.
Yeah, I love that.
Nice boundary you have with yourself.
Yeah.
And the world.
Yeah. And I find when you can look at life like that, you can enjoy a deeper sense of stillness.
Yeah.
And stillness is a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are really afraid of that stillness.
Yeah.
It's like like they're terrified of it. Like I think I was speaking to someone once, and it was like, "Oh, have you ever done a float?" I was like, "Nah, I'm too scared to be alone and in a place where there's like you can't hear anything or stuff like that." So it's
or
crazy.
Alone with your thoughts,
Yeah, alone with your thoughts. Yeah.
And that's fear, and underneath that fear is the fear of death. There always is. It's the fear of death. I feel sits beneath all fears of everything else.
Yeah.
And when you can face that and go, well, I'm not afraid of anything. I will die. If I died tomorrow, I would be okay. I know those people around me may be very upset, but I would be okay because I've had such an amazing impact in this physical body.
Yeah.
1,000,000 times more than some people that have been alive for 100 years.
Yeah.
Not as much as some that have been alive in different, examples. But yeah, I wouldn't want to, but it would be okay. Because what's next? I don't know what's next. And it could be 1,000,000 times more beautiful than this.
True. And that's probably true as well.
Exactly.
So
I don't believe in death, as I say, to be honest. It's taking off of one suit into another.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, well, it's the undercurrent to all fear, isn't it? Like you say, it's like, say, oh, well, what if I miss my appointment for this podcast? And then like on the back of that, like you obviously, oh, I'm so stressed about that, but what's below that? It's like, oh, well, then the person that I was going to meet won't like me. And then if they don't like me, then I'm going to, not be a part of the community. And if I'm not part of the community, I'm going to, be depressed. And if I'm depressed, I'm going to
die.
Then I'm going to die. Then I'm going to die, right? And it's like if you break down every single fear, you can layer it back to because I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And then if you can become in communion or at peace with death, then really that's your journey to dissipating all fears.
Yeah. Wow,
You
I
guys
love that.
conquered that one first.
that was one of my first big conquers. Yeah, I remember coming across. Are you familiar with Brian Rose from London Real?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a guy called Stephen Jenkinson on his podcast. And he's part native Canadian, so like Canadian Indian, part just Canadian or North American, and he used to be like an afterlife carer. So he would sit with people on their deathbed and prepare them for
like a death door.
Death door. Yeah. And he would prepare them for their changeover into the next life. And he would go through like this type of thing with them and really prepare them for knowing that this physical body's gone, but what's next is you don't know what's next, so don't be afraid of it, you know? And I sat through that and I rewatched it and then I watched his follow-up, and it just showed me all the answers, and it was just not to be afraid of death.
Stephen Jenkinson.
Jenkinson.
He writes that
I need
book as well.
get back
isn't
into
it?
London Real.
Yeah, he's got a couple of books.
The one that Jazz
really
talks
good
about.
one, I think, is Die Wise.
Die Wise, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's like a thick book.
Quite a thick one, yeah.
But yeah, that's why podcasts are such a great way to
Yeah.
start in that, just digest that small amount of information. It's like Joe Dispenza's similar. He's got obviously, libraries and catalogs and stuff, but there's this one podcast he does on Spotify, and it goes for like an hour and a half, and it disseminates all of his like best information. And if anyone's trying to get into him, I'm like, don't go read his books. Start with this 1.5 hours of your life. Can you dedicate that? So.
Yeah, he's got like a 12 episode series on Guy or something, which is also very good.
Yeah.
It's like amazing. He breaks things down quite well. Yeah. But yeah, what about you, Jaime? What was your breakthrough moment?
Ooh. I've been thinking about it since you asked the question, and it's I believe every layer has a breakthrough moment, has a defining moment in the journey. That click, that plant medicine ceremony I talked about on the 27th of December 2021, that integration, that I feel like every breakthrough moment for me follows with the feeling that I'm exactly where I need to be in that moment. And it's this full energetic feeling of like, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. And I don't get it, too often. It's like when it's that full body, like, yes, this is where I need to be. And that was one of them. But the real catalyst for my whole journey, for starting with philosophy, psychology, physiology, was mid 2015. I was traveling through Cambodia with a friend of mine, and again, the addicted lover, going off and chasing women and whatever it was, at a hostel and partying. And my mate that I was with, he wasn't really like that. It wasn't sort of like, he was just, and he'd actually a week before met the girl met the woman that he'd later marry and have his first kid with. And they're still, she's just turned 1 actually, their daughter. Beautiful. Anyway, so he was like completely, in that, but I was off, doing what I do. And something sort of happened, and he sort of explains it like, no, I wasn't judging you, but I received it as a judgment of like me, because I'd like left him on the night and whatever it was. And that it hit me really deep, and I actually went into a panic attack response, and I couldn't breathe and had this full overwhelm. I had to go downstairs, and I didn't really know what it was at the time until after, and things changed that night. Things had changed that night, and I refer back to this often because the next day I was just different. I was like in this state, like we were sitting on this boat on the way out to this like beautiful island. I'm just like staring at like the ground, like something needs to change. And that very same week, a friend of mine, we actually shared a lot of our journey together through sort of anxiety and that kind of stuff. He'd sent me this TED talk, and it was by Tony Robbins, and it's called Why People Do What They Do. And he talks about the 6 human needs, which we don't need to go into, but it's been the undercurrent of my entire journey, because I watched that YouTube video no less than 100 times, and I could recite it word for word as we're talking. But that dived me deep into okay, well, we can work with the mind, we can work with psychology. There's something not right here. There's something I need to change, and that was really catapulted my journey. That psychology, and then I was like, well, how does the mind work? How do we think? Why are we here? And that sort of philosophy, and that, you know, that sort of steamrolled into that, you know, landing in Bali in 2019 in that spiritual journey. So for me, that was the real breakthrough moment that catapulted my entire self-development journey. But there's one more I'd like to talk about really briefly, and that's a couple of years ago I was called to connect more with my voice.
Yeah.
I was raised by 3 beautiful women, 2 older sisters and my mum, and they used to sing a lot. And I grew up thinking, oh, I can't sing, got no, you know, no voice, no connection to voice.
Yeah.
And I was guided to just find a singing coach through some friends of mine. And literally, like, on Google, I was living up in Clarkson, and this lady, like 4 minutes from my house, had all these Google reviews, unassuming little house.
Wow.
A lady called Donna Sell. And within the second lesson, so she's, you know, I go in and she's more than just a singing coach. She's got these big crystal bowls there and all these like tuning forks and sound healing stuff. Full like psycho, spiritual coach, medicine woman, but also lived in Hollywood for 10 years, did all the voice coaching, did all, you know, works with professionals, all that kind of stuff. You know, and
I got the details.
oh man, and I worked with this woman for a year and a half, and she changed my life. But by the second lesson, you know, the voice she gets out, and this like hit this moment, I remember it, and it was like this voice that I'd never heard came out of me. I was just making this tone, and she's like, that's it. That is the man that's been waiting to come out for all of these years. And I was like, burst into tears on this second session. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that we can spend all the time in the world trying to open up the heart. But until we clear the channel of the voice and learn to use our voice and express through voice, we can't really express what's inside.
True.
And for me, that was the breakthrough moment where I opened up that channel of expression.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you sing at the moment, like just for fun?
So, well, yeah, I got to a point where I could sing some songs and have some fun with it. Never to a point where I would like perform.
But then your birthday, that was pretty epic. Sung a song at his birthday.
What song was it?
Cool.
Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. But I sort of, you know, it coincided with me picking up the Didge, you know, like a year and a half ago, the Yidaki, as traditionally called, and that's having that undercurrent of voice, and also stepping into the shamanic realms where you do these long sort of tones, and that allowed me so much vocal range in that space to really step into the shamanic voice and really step into my intuitive side with that, because I already built that foundation. And also with the Didge, I had that strong vocal box, and you know, I might never be the Ziggy Alberts like I wanted to be, you know, performing the acoustic songs for thousands of people, but that pathway that opened up, and her coaching and guidance and space holding and allowing me to express my voice as a man was, that was probably the single most like life-changing thing that I've done is singing coaching. He wouldn't believe it.
That's very important energy work as well, right?
Shamanism.
It's powerful energy center, you know, the throat chakra, because you can have everything all the way up from the feet up, from the base, and then it just gets stuck here and it just can't move. So when you can unlock that, and you know, singing or speaking your truth or practicing your boundaries, like amazing, the whole lot, you know.
Incredible, yeah. You can send me her details, man. I'm gonna hit her up.
We'll
get the old voice box going.
She came to my mind again the other day. I was speaking with my partner, and she was like, "You got a really nice voice." I was like, "Oh, thanks, babe." It's like, Donna, got to speak to Donna.
Stuff before me.
I've sent a few people to her, and they've had very powerful experiences.
Can I ask you guys a question? I think I've got 2 more questions, but I want to know what you guys think. What is God, and also your experiences with God or connecting to God or Source?
So I've had quite an interesting journey on, I suppose, the God aspect. Brought up in a predominantly Christian, Anglo-Christian family in the UK. So like it was, mum would go to church, my gran would go to church, I was christened, you know, everyone has weddings in church, you know, you go every Sunday sort of thing. It was never forced upon us, but it was, you know, I used to wear a crucifix, all that, I'd pray to God every day, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then as I started to develop deeper as an adult and have these different experiences, I was like, well, I'm going to look into this a bit more. And I was dating a beautiful lady at the time, and I'd been away from any churches for a while, and I started going to church with her. And it was like a New Age church, New Age Christian church, which was beautiful. It was really fun, family friendly, really high vibe. And I went in there a couple of times. It felt really nice, and I started like watching scriptures on YouTube. There was this particular guy who was I don't know what you call him. He wasn't like a priest. He was more of a storyteller, kind
Like a preacher sort of thing.
Preacher sort of thing. Yeah, but he was really funky and like young guy. Started watching a bit of his stuff to work through some relationship woes, and then I went back to church. This was in between me starting to learn breathwork, not as a practitioner, but like just learning how to breathe properly. So I think like for me, I started dropping a bit more into energetic space, and then I was still going to church. And I remember going to church one day and I just felt so hot, really, really hot. It was a cold day and I was boiling hot, I was dripping with sweat, and I was like, babe, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
She's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'll just go get some fresh air.
Bursting into flames.
Man, as soon as I walked out of that church, I felt so alive, and I was like, I'm never going back in here ever again.
Wow.
So for me, that was the bigger scope of God or source calling me away from a confined space and belief system, and it was guiding me more to an open and non-judgmental and non-defined belief system. And that's where I started to dive more into the breathwork, which then opened up all these other channels. I dropped deeper into the Zen Buddhism and all that kind of stuff. And then everything just cracked open, and I was like, God is not a man that tells you what to do. God is within all of us. Source energy, divine Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It is the most divine and purest energy that can ever be experienced. So for me, it was like, all right, well, I need to get out of church, and I need to speak to my partner about how I feel about church and about life and about energy. And she just went, you're fucking crazy, get the fuck out of here. And we broke up. Like, it was the most intense breakup I've ever had.
Yeah.
But I was guided by something that I still believe was source, was God. And it guided me away from the church, which I find is quite funny. It didn't guide me to drugs or alcohol, it guided me to sitting right here today.
Yeah.
I know some people who LSD, drugs, and they've been led by God to church, but to find balance because they were too sort of lost.
Yeah.
Lost
Okay.
So for me, that was my sort of journey, and I felt great in church for a moment until that fire of the whatever it was, like
the awakening.
And I don't need to know what that was. All I need to know is what it's guided me to, and it's guided me to my own divine truth, which is non-systematic, it's non-controlling, it's the most open expression of life that I could ever experience. And that's what I believe source and God is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
I love how you've integrated these different parts of your life so perfectly now. Like the Stoicism, I can see it's blended in with everything quite nicely. It's good to see.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.
What about you, Jamie? Sorry.
So my upbringing was quite different, actually. I was born on a tiny island in New Zealand in a bathtub.
Water birth.
Water birth, home birth, the full kit and caboodle. And, there was never any religion per se, like growing up, but there was always this undercurrent of some kind of spirituality that I wasn't really tuned into until I was much older. But, my great-grandma, she was Rosicrucian, which is like a very, in a religious context, but like more like a much more spiritual connection to all kind of thing. As Da Vinci sort of dived into Rosicrucian and that kind of stuff. And my grandma, my nana, it's actually her birthday this month, and she was a follower of Sai Baba and spent some time in India and with her guru, and so there's always this undercurrent. And then my mum would always talk about this book called Conversations with God.
I've read about this book,
Neil
actually.
Donald Walsh.
Neil Donald Walsh, yeah. So growing up, I thought, well, that's just a God thing, and I was always, am I atheist or agnostic? I settled on agnostic, sort of, late teens, early 20s. I'm like, well, I don't know the answers, and it's not going to influence my life, so why would I care? Sort of like, the my early introduction to Stoicism. And, you know, but it wasn't until I sort of actually finally picked up this book and read it, and a lot of people put off because it's got the word God in it, but this is the most divine book. It's written as this channel, this dialogue between this man and between God, and he's sort of like, well, I was just writing down the conversation, and he asks all these questions about life and spirituality and the world, and why the world the way it is, and it just goes on for all these pages, and ultimately what it says is we are just having this divine experience, and the highest of these experiences is peace, love, and joy. And the experience of God is just fully experiencing yourself and the world around you through the lens of peace, love, and joy. And for me, that's sort of what has all integrated in my journey, is that God is within us, and God is around us, and God is through us. And whatever you want to call it, is it spirit, is it God, is it something greater than us, than our physical realm of influence that can work through us, but that also is us. And does that make complete sense?
Yeah.
Some people maybe not.
Yeah.
But
it takes a while to land on that.
It takes a while to land, but it doesn't really need to, if you can be in full trust. And this is what I mentioned earlier on, is because one of your questions in the list was like, what is love to you? And for me, love is the intersection in the Venn diagram between truth and trust. And truth is the voice, truth is expression, truth is that journey of the voice, and trust is trusting in the divine force of nature, the divine force of spirit, the divine flow of life, which is God, which is source, which is you acting fully in the experience of what you are. And and for me that is love. That is the frequency of unconditional love.
So where would you say was that flip between atheism to believing in like a deistic God?
I guess it was a layering, really. Consistently, we say, and I say it all the time, peel back the layers. But for me, if you live by the philosophy that everything is necessary, and for me, there's only one path, right? We often look at life like this, like, do I go left or do I go right? But as soon as you go left, right doesn't exist anymore, because you can never go back.
Yeah.
We're on this sort of like physical trajectory. So that one path, everything is necessary, that it's sort of like, instead of peeling back the layers, we're kind of adding on the layers. To become this ever-expansive being, There's, are you guys familiar with the book Shantaram?
No.
Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts. It's my favorite novel. It's like 1,000 pages, and I've read it probably 3 times in my life. And it's about this, loosely based on a true story, but basically this guy that goes to India and has this beautiful experience. Well, he's exiled. He's a runaway from prison, basically. He's an escapee from prison, and has this beautiful... But it's got these undercurrents of philosophy and becoming okay with discomfort and to integrating an environment that you wouldn't be normally comfortable with. But one of the key moments in that, and key philosophies, is that, God is this ultimate complexity, is the ultimate complexity, and anything that is inherently good in life is to move towards that complexity, and anything that is bad or is a hindrance is to move away from complexity in an attempt to simplify life. So we can never fully understand the ultimate complexity. And for me, that was one of the big breakthroughs, of all the big layers that added on, was like, okay, well, I just need to trust. There's a sphere that I can influence and understand, and beyond that is trust. And can I feel safe and strong enough in my own energy to trust? So dropping into that trust has happened over time, but really with that heart-opening sort of experiences and that heart coherence practices and opening the heart through cacao medicine and other plant medicines and connections and just being kind to myself, to fully allow trust in, has been the pivotal moment for me to go from okay, well, I need to understand everything around me, or I can't understand it, to, okay, well, there is something there, and it happens through me, and it is me.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I have one final question. You as
No,
well.
yeah, go for it.
But what do you guys think is happening, or what is your take on what's happening on the earth right now, with everything sort of in consideration?
A lot. Yeah, this is the biggest challenge civilization has ever faced, with the for lack of a better term, the good versus evil, the dark versus light, the black versus white, the yin and the yang. Like, we're seeing so much suppression of love and energy and kind-heartedness that's trying to be suppressed and controlled by those that are scared of losing their power. But we're also seeing such a huge shift in the universal consciousness, of wanting to live a more fulfilling life and a more truthful life and a deeper life with real meaning and real value. We've seen so many people come through our space as Holistika and as just individuals who want to feel more and be more and show up better and have deeper connections. So, like, we're seeing this challenge of the darkness and the controlling entities, but we're also seeing this huge opportunity for more growth into the light space and the love. So I feel it's this huge pendulum that's just continually swinging. My personal opinion is we may need to swing a little bit more on the darker side, not personally, but like, we're going to see a little bit more challenge, a little bit more adversity, to then have that alternate pendulum swing, but something that raises that bar so people can see a more beautiful way of living, and they choose to step up and accept that as their baseline. So, we're not out of the woods yet, like, with what's going on in society, but we're making massive impact.
Yeah.
Like, it's proven, from my personal journey and our combined journey, like, we're seeing huge shifts. Shifts.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Harder sort of thing to become, or the government pushes, or whatever, with like mandates or whatever it may be, the pendulum swings the other side as well. So it creates a greater awakening.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I see is, like, from my own contemplation of life, like, my physical body may not see that big shift happen, but my impact will be felt, and that's why I choose to show up as us, not me, every day. Because if I show up as me, I'm just working for me, right?
Yeah.
If I show up as us, as an embodied me, I can then have a deeper impact for this swing to be more everlasting and more effective.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that's a choice. It's a choice for everyone, right? A lot of people choose to show up for themselves every day.
Yeah.
And, I've personally got to a point where I'm so content with myself, I can then show up more for everyone else every day. And people go, oh, aren't you living for yourself? Like, what about you? I'm like, me's full. Me is overflowing, man. Like, I wake up every day feeling amazing, enough to overflow that joy onto those around me.
Yeah.
And then they get to fill their cup up, and we all rise together. It's like the collective rising.
Yeah. And you also said we, so you're included in that we.
100%,
as well.
Yeah, we's not like everyone over there and I'm here, like, it's we, And that's a big part of, like, my journey through Invictus with Jaimes and with the brothers that journeyed with us, was finally accepting that, like, it's us, it's we. It's not just me. I can have all the goodies in the world, I can have the most amazing life, but if I can't share that joy with people, what's the point?
Where does your wisdom come from when it comes to you? Are you blocking things out of your life, or are you bringing things into your life to absorb information? Or where do these sort of insights that you lead your life?
It's pretty funny because like, this has been a question I've reflected on myself quite often as well, is like, where did all this come from? And that's where I go, I don't need to know. Honestly, like, submitting the fuck out of that.
Facts.
Yeah. Because why do I?
Trust.
Because that then just takes me away from what I'm currently doing so effectively. And if I'm trying to find all these answers, I'm losing the journey, the moment, right? Like, I don't live in a result-driven mindset. I live in a journey-driven presence, because that presence is the bulk of that's all the meaty goodness. Not
Yeah.
meat because I'm vegan, but you know, that's the beautiful nourishment of the whole
The
big
jackfruity
chunk in the
goodness.
middle, that
Beautiful.
shredded jackfruit in the tub.
So for someone to replicate that, you would be saying more presence.
More presence, less control. Big
Yeah.
time. Big time. Submit to something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
And when you do that from a place of love, genuine connection and love, it's like I said at the start of the podcast, your journey will be so much more magical. And I'm living and breathing that every second right now.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you
that's
for living that
beautiful.
life
Yeah.
so we can witness and hopefully,
Yeah, thank you, brother.
learn.
Well, there's another thing I've really explored the heck out of is hope. I don't believe in hope.
No, okay.
Hope is submitting your power to something, you know. Faith is what I choose, you know. Faith in the higher power, but not hope that someone's going to come and save you, because no
Yeah.
one will. No one's here to save us. It's up to you.
Yeah,
True.
Jim Carrey says, hope is a beggar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true, yeah.
And language, and language is so important. And hope is like a lower vibrational word. So if you're hoping for everything, you're waiting for stuff to happen, you're going, oh, well, someone's going to come in and help me. Someone's going to come save us. Like, no one is.
Yeah.
It's up to you to show up with love, with intention, open heart, but that sword that's so sharp in your sheath that it's ready to go.
Ready to go.
Mm.
Awesome. Yeah. And Jamie, what was your take on?
That's.
Sorry, man.
No, sorry. No, I was just acknowledging, I was just acknowledging the wisdom. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Glad that's recording. What's your take on what do you feel that's happening, especially on Earth?
Yeah, Ryan put it so beautifully. It's a pendulum, right? It's that sway of energy, and I'll break it right down into something people can really understand. Like, how many times have you heard of people fighting for freedom or fighting for change?
All of human history, I suppose. Yeah.
Right, and fighting against something is just bringing the same energy to the fight. It doesn't matter what your intention is. You are bringing that same energy, your fire with fire, and it comes right back to that art of peace. How can you show up with strength, but in a peaceful way, saying, I see you, I love you, but this needs to change. And that's what the energy that I want to bring and that we want to bring is to shift that around, you know, like the pickets and like stand up for what you believe in, but don't do it with the energy of fighting, because you're just feeding that pendulum, you know, and it's just, you know, like you say, the more that they suppress, the more that we rise and get energy. But it's like, and this is what flicked the switch with the collaboration, right? Because it was like collaboration over competition, because we took that fight energy out of it and we just fed it abundance. There's always going to be enough people to come to our events, and there's always going to be enough money. It's just this shared enoughness. And that's the true energy of abundance. It's not about how can I be so abundant and have so much. It's how can we all have that shared enoughness. And for me, that's, you know, obviously what's going on in the world is an amplification of the dark, and it's like that pendulum swinging. But the only way that we can transmute that and you know, share that beautiful energy is to send it love and to send it peace, and to find strength in our peace.
Beautiful, man. Very
Beautiful,
well said. Now, before we wrap up, is there a question you guys wish that we would have asked today, or something you want to share that's sort of on your mind, or?
I think just to share with the audience, to when something doesn't feel right, explore it. Don't accept it. Don't accept, because the standard you accept, well, the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. So if you see something that's not quite right, speak into it, raise it, talk to someone about it, you know. It's a big thing of what we're seeing in society is divide and conquer. Let's work together. And that's what we do so well. And that's what I implore the audience and everyone else to do too. Work together.
Beautiful. Also, why do you guys think so many people are struggling with mental health right now?
The system, for a start, the system's so broken, but we need to recreate that from within. You know, because this is another thing, is giving your power away. No one's going to fix you apart from you. And I get that people are in different mindsets and different chemical imbalances and whatnot, but it has to come from within.
Yeah.
Like change doesn't happen externally; it starts internally.
Yeah.
You know, and we've all got a role to play. If you see someone struggling, hey, how are you? I don't know you, but how are you? Smile at someone. Hold a door open for someone. Grab that last can of beans off the top shelf for the little old lady that can't reach it. Give it to her. Stop taking and start giving more, because that will ripple effect into the environment, into the community.
Beautiful.
And you can prove it.
Yeah, and this is my favourite word at the moment, is perpetuation. Right, the system is designed to perpetuate mental health issues and to nurture them, because, you know, without going too deep into the darkness, but it's like it's follow the money, right? Who is profiting from the system? Who is the pharmaceutical companies? Is, you know, who's invested in the pharmaceutical companies? The politicians and the media and all this stuff. You know, you follow the money. It's all that energy that's feeding into that one thing, and that perpetuates that there is a bigger issue than, you know, that can be solved. You know, they're making it out to be an issue that can't be solved. And I'm not saying that. I'm not negating anyone's issues and saying, you know, they don't have them. 100%. People are struggling. People are going through mental health issues. People are having health issues. Are they being, you know, addressed fully holistically in ways that can heal them? Probably not. You know, some people might be, but probably not. And the system is designed that way to keep people sick, to keep people distracted, to keep people in their, you know, little zone of, you know, Stuart Wilde.
I love him.
Mastery of Money. He does this talk, it's in Australia. He's an English guy in Australia, 1986, I think it is, on YouTube. And he's, you know, talking to this audience, and they're all wearing the 80s sort of suits, and it's hilarious. But he basically says people sort of make enough money to live below the revolution line. So just enough to keep them happy, but not enough that they are going to revolt. And this sort of, and it's the natural, you know, growth of that is the mental health issues, is the societal divide, is the negation of First Nations people, is all that kind of stuff that's happening, is the system is designed to perpetuate that, and the only way we can do that is to change from within, change the game, flip the script and say, well, we're going to show up with peace, we're going to show up with empowerment, and we're going to show up with love. And that's
beautiful.
That's what we are, and that's what Holistika is, and that's why we're here to do.
And sorry, it's just adding on to what you were saying before. It's about your like environment and your the ability, the importance, the environment you kind of encapsulate yourself in is just so crucial to like your own development and where you're going and how you can kind of. And the moment you realize how you change your environment, or you meet some people who give you the knowledge to kind of move to where you want to be, it's so powerful, man. Your environment is crucial. Community. So it's that element of community, and it's something that we lack right now. And like it seems like everything that's happened in the last 2 years was to just dissolve that as much as possible.
That being said, where can people reach out and find you, and find Holistika and connect with you guys?
So you can find us on Instagram, Holistika_AU. We're relatively active on Instagram. We respond to DMs and whatnot. Facebook page as well, Holistika Facebook page. We do a lot of collaborations. You know, we got some epic stuff coming up in the works. So just really keep your eyes out on mainly the Instagram page. We've got a website coming soon, which will be in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
We've got lots and lots and lots coming.
Cacao ceremonies. Got a retreat next month down in Margaret River. We're actually going on a road trip this week. We're starting to bring some of the medicine down down south. So we're running our cacao ceremony in Margs and in Bunbury.
Oh, beautiful.
And then we're bringing it back to Perth to do a more like a larger ceremony, and and it's just beautiful. Bring the magic, and like Ryan says, we've got so much more to come, and we're here for it all. We're here for it all.
And it's all for the community. It's not for me and Jamie to fill our pockets. It's to expand the community and rebuild these fractures that certain external forces are creating, you know. We rise together and we rise as one.
Beautiful. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it.
Big love.